HIPAA returns. This is a really interesting topic for a lot of different businesses. It's kind of an edge case, but if you think about it, whenever you're dealing with a scaled up HIPAA e-commerce, pharmacy, even lab test kit scenario, you're probably going to have some returns and you're going to need to think about how you're going to handle this. Is it just going to be a simple form that you have folks fill out, or are you going to have an automated process? If you're using any kind of automation or really any basic forms, what's the workflow going to be? And how are you going to comply with HIPAA rules as you kind of send these different notifications to different partners or to different team members internally to complete this return request? So we're going to kind of get into the weeds on some of those scenarios, and we'll also talk briefly about integrations, the security and the privacy rule. You know the drill. With that said, let's get into it. Okay, so in this particular example, we're looking at just kind of a classic e-commerce system for a pharmacy use case. And the user has gone to their dashboard and now they're seeing the detail view for their order. They're going to come in and they can see different options. They can see all of the details of their order, the status of the different line items, etc. Now, if you just kind of go back up to the sales orders, you can see the status here. And depending on the status, for example, if it's already been delivered or it's already been, processed and on hand for maybe more than a certain time period, it may not be eligible for a return. Just depends on your workflows. We recommend that you kind of figure this out and think about it right now if you haven't already, and make sure that this is clearly documented to the user and really boldly clarified to them if necessary. Just kind of try to put yourself in their shoes and think about what their expectations might be versus how you operate. If there's a big gap there, then you really need to make sure your expectations and communication are very clear up front. Okay, with that said, once the user is kind of in this view, if it's possible to return the items, they're going to be able to see that option here. So we can dynamically turn that off. We can even provide a notification for the user as to why that's not available if you want that as an option. Anyway, if they click on return items, they're going to see a dialog that allows them to select one or multiple items that they're going to return. They can change the quantity up to the number of purchase quantity, of course, and then select the reason. So the reasons can be varied. It really depends on what options you want to provide. We have a default set, and then you can also customize, extend, remove, etc. Now, depending on the reason they select, we can also require that they provide a description and then kick off a workflow once they submit that request, where, of course, the user is notified, hey, we got your request. Here's what we're going to do. But we can also go ahead and internally complete a workflow where your internal team has the ability to kind of go through a similar set of steps. So this can happen in the admin dashboard. It can happen via your EMR, EHR, or pharmacy application. We can integrate with a custom application. You name it, we can do it. Now, the next thing is once the user has submitted a return, hopefully you don't have this many returns in their view. But once they've submitted it, you can see that the status shows up for them. So they can see the amount, the date, the quantity, and what the overall status is. They can also go to see a view and see that they can cancel the return request. They're going to have the ability, if the return request is approved, to go in and print a shipping label if you want to turn that on. They can then track what the status is once the item's been shipped, see the status of the shipment. They will be able to integrate, if you want, to your back office system, and we can automatically pull in whenever the return is processed. Again, we want to really emphasize that it's all about expectation management and notifying the user at different steps in the workflow. If you can put yourself in their shoes, you can really help them have an awesome experience. Instead of one that leaves you with a 1 or 2 star review, you can have them singing your praises even though there was a mistake or a damaged item, for example. This is really an opportunity to let your customer service and support process shine. And one of the biggest aspects of this is expectation management. Okay, you get the idea. Now, the other big thing that we want to point out about this RMA process is, generally speaking, this is going to contain some sensitive PHI data. Surprise, surprise. Now, whenever you're dealing with this sensitive data, you do not want to share it in the actual notifications. So we want to make sure that we're just sending links and allowing the user to authenticate and be authorized and make sure they're authorized before they can see detailed status information about their return. Same thing with internal users. Whenever the internal users are reviewing something or going through a return request, we want to go through that process and make sure that they are authenticated and authorized to be able to view the information. So the other thing that I'll leave you with here is just generally speaking, if you have a slightly different process, maybe it's not a typical physical item that they're going to return. Maybe you provide a 30-day money-back guarantee. Maybe you provide some kind of customer satisfaction guarantee. We can provide an automated process to enable the customer to share feedback and maybe even go through an escalation process where your internal support team provides them with contact. Could be a chat session, a phone session, or it could be, some kind of escalation management process. And then finally, a return or a refund is issued. It's really up to you. We encourage you to think about some of the different scenarios that might apply in your case. Ultimately, this can all be tied back to your back office systems. It can be tied to your customer support and customer service systems and done securely via API. Now, just in general, we also provide a very detailed discovery process, and I'll kind of go into that next. So basically, with our discovery process, we encourage you, whether you work with our team or not, we encourage you to go into details like this return process. Are you going to do returns on your project right away? Maybe not. A lot of clients don't necessarily offer an automated returns process out of the gate, but you may want to do this 3 to 5 years from now. You may need to be able to do this if you're working to scale up your system right away. Depending on your scenario, we encourage you to cover things like this in discovery. What do we mean by discovery? Basically, discovery is like building a blueprint for your custom home. If you don't have a plan, then you're probably not going to get the result that you're actually looking for. So whenever you work with a vendor like Clarity, we actually put a detailed blueprint in place. Imagine all the details of a custom home build. Same exact idea for your Hipaa project. We want to make sure that you're also working with a vendor who actually has experience in this field. We cannot tell you how many clients have come to us after not working with a vendor who actually knows how to use kind of HIPAA basic standards for security, privacy, and just generally have experience in the field. So overall, what we like to offer at this point, if you're interested, is a complimentary discovery. You can take a look at some of the other videos that we provide. This is a very hassle-free, no obligation way that you can interact with our team. We can provide you with very detailed information that you can take with you after discussing your potential project with us. If there's not a good fit, we'll point you in a direction that will hopefully provide you a lot of resources at minimum. And best case scenario, if there is a good fit to work together, we'll look to provide you with options that may work for you going forward. Either way, if you like the content of this video, we would love it if you would smash the like button. And if you'd like to see more information like this, including our HIPAA in the news, feel free to hit subscribe, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, and bye for now.